unless I put this in the 2 and Z because it is from afternoon to the star, and highlight it, and double check and visually confirm that it's there. It will not be.
There.
Okay.
How much prep do you all have?
3:30.
Are you just ready to
Pretty
start?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to.
It's all good.
My order is going to be hedge, warming, elections. And we need to slash our hours for name one thing. Did you find it?
Yep.
Do you both have it?
Oh yeah, we will.
Are you good? Their diseases impact no change biological technological force, the home state is advantaged by diverse diseases, which are covered in focus on extinction events, and come close to destroying the entire human race, after selected favor germs of lethal because their genome are likely to spread likely, and natural dynamics will cause extinction, even less likely to end in a passage. Hedge is inevitable, let's take an economic industry structure to without using this matter as long as we economically engage, we can solve hedge house world lines for plan and use them, and introduce things that are out to go west to the next legislation, even hedge causes words, yes, there's common so global, let's take and hedge is inevitable, the youth is going to promote hedge better than the only question is our effectiveness or evidence of the our scenario just because we interview things doesn't mean we'll give up our power. We're focused on Asian first treated interest now. No way it is an example of reason where we would have had to hit the spoiler as it's as soon as the king. 7 in historical record goes after engagement will be inevitable. Let's keep people level the rest of the rules including from the youth that was powerful for their own that we should try to make sure that privacy commercial issues not that bad. The violence of the lower Kentucky is very distinct to call in. Well, never drop the local commitments, but that's strong to due to effect because the swords itself and not use is very likely to break the games will create that physical. Or starter mean on the margin pulse of it because the US will defend the global and different strategies that could take military coordinate with French have around world in the given extent. America's going to clean to a false uniform reality, post tradition, which means we're never going to go ahead and succeed. And then also you could assume the US is going to intervene in nuclear wars until the Liberty Card talks about how the US is strong motivation to intervene in wars because of things like nuclear weapons would draw US back. And also you could extend that sustaining hedge now to the peaceful transition when hedge collapses that they're dome. Things I'm just talking about how the US has to set up conditions now in order to make sure the transition peaceful and hedge a sustainable area after evidence to get selection by strategic use pilots effectively. And 12 because the dead declines of the much declines of globalization and trying to use very sustainable globalization alternative use for durable globalization very such one of the reasons why the US is drilling the competition for dangerous for computer outer position globalization allows to exploit the advantages of that is for the use not allowed to style any more and more military power to China. Also, their internal link turn evidence teases the military power makes spread not credibility, but using the cross my arms to unite here. They don't propose to do more smart power approach or mix hard power and soft power is going to be able to solve that this turn that's in the 1AC. Also, you can extend the alternative to hedge the apolarity causes nuclear war that's Ferguson and for they say that our authors are flawed, even if you grant him this, our other authors are legitimate. Also, even if his analysis is hypothetical, that doesn't mean that it's wrong. All of the evidence from all of the authors is hypothetical situation. You could extend empiricism and statistical analysis supports hedging. Empiric evidence is on our side that's Levy and Thompson to attend this argument only goes now to talk about how the empirical statistical analysis supports the fact that hedge would be sustainable. Go to warming. Concede that food war doesn't happen. We're not going for that impact. You could extend the growth statistics showing disease of economic downturn costs is likely not out of touch. We're ready because the economic class is inevitable and the use is key to global economic standing because there is on the 8 that talks about the weakness of the US economy is dragging down other economies because besides the US must increase jobs. Only the plan solves we create 3 million jobs and the best to release the economy and everyone can does love nuclear war that's needed 9 billion nuclear armament distribution damage to reviews for plus back to 9 rewards pressure from distribution love for month or clarity pitching and another thing to the economy back track may self define go warming is a large factor of conflict such as building inclusive conflict is significant determinant geopolitics the economy is happening 11 warming generally switching to an tipping point the ice melting sea level rise beach loss with extreme climates result extinction of west love and you can extend the decrease after gas usage to add force with ICA and use adding trees keep stop warming as well as global instability that's lure 2K also you can extend renewable key economic security necessary innovation to reduce the deficit that's genius and Lebanon and warming makes every flashpoint from word out that this evidence isn't in the context of diseases it still applies to the Chevron age how to exuberate every existing in conflict in all regions themselves about other NO2 screw argument this does not weigh the negative effects of CO2 emissions or 90% of all emissions of feedback argument doesn't matter warming is still happy Conrad Wassel was not very famous candidate. The time did not have significant impact on the voting intention of Republicans, and Romney wins swing states that silver, and 10 fights for this because silver is the best. Analysis talks about how Romney is leading in key swing states like Virginia and Florida, and these states might be most of the Romney would win because the economy is their aim. Some 10 more evidence cites the Colorado model. The election forecast talks about current economic conditions that they're predicting that Romney is going to win based on these in the electoral college. Based on these, Obama is only going to receive 200 electoral votes, which means that Romney will be able to beat him in this model. More predictions can also see the model Romney is going to win the newest polls. That's Examiner 10 talks about how polls in key swing states like Houston represent the president has a higher disapproval rating, and that Romney is winning in 7 out of the 11 swing states, which would be enough to get him electoral college. But you can also see that Romney wins because the debate gets him momentum. That's the Seattle Times and 10 full piece of evidence talks about how the debate gave him momentum with the voters, which that his base is more invigorated, and also that he's going to get other people's votes on board. You can also see that Romney wins because the polls and turnout is daily. Caller and 10 evidence talks about Obama's numbers are decreasing now that the Hispanic vote might not turn out, which is what he would need to be able to win, which means that there's only a risk that Romney is going to win. You can also see that Romney is polling higher than Obama in key states with the Prairie Opinion 10-5, according to Graham Stevens, the race to 6.1% towards Romney, to 52% to 48%. Romney leading Obama by 3 points from Florida, 2 by 1 point Ohio. Obama is falling behind, and you can accept that the link is self-correcting. Obama will legalize marijuana to get the youth food that's vote that's winning since 614. So you misunderstand this argument. It talks about how Obama would legalize pot in order to get voters, which means that the risk of the link doesn't matter. You can also accept that no one switches their vote over energy. She doesn't read a piece of evidence in the sense that the public would actually switch their votes because the plan passes. The Washington Post 627 talks about energy issues don't spark excitement among voters. They don't care. They rank it below health care, education, and the federal budget deficits. They all see these as more important. You can also accept that the plan gives swing states on board. This is Dan 10 evidence about Romney beats Obama. It won't be because voters won't turn back on plus the remote clean energy. Nearly 4 out of 5 voters talk about how solar energy is popular, and that the plan would get key swing states on votes, and that by a 57 to 32 margin, they would vote for the plan. You can also extend that Clinton vaccine tariffs was carried at 8/21 evidence, and Clinton is key to the election. It would spin future Obama policies, which would get other voters on board. That's the Hellerman and 9/11 evidence. Also, Romney won't strike Iran style rhetoric. It's screaming at 12 top 5 Romney said the president should respect reserves for Romney to stop showing legs to around our the diplomacy constitutional system called the man's nuclear ambitions.
How much have you left?
7:15. Just to be clear, the resource noise impact is not extended,
Right.
and the add-on is also not extended.
Right.
Yeah, cool. concede a later date and time. Alright, the order will be elections, competitiveness, and then y'all speech up. Yep.
Concede that round, you won't strike around, no risk of offense, go to the competitiveness. Go to the competitiveness. Well, first, disease is the biggest impact in the round. The greater evidence indicates it will cause extinction because disease evolved to the point where we have no vaccines or no mechanisms to stop them. Our impact is comparatively bigger. Wars will not cause extinction empirically. There's always been a winner, which means it cannot escalate to a sustained base because nuclear war would be contained to the involved countries, which means it won't escalate to nuclear winter because it won't be widespread around the globe. We also have a quicker time frame. Resource conflicts and warming have a no impact rate because they are far way off, proven by increasing warming now, and lots of resource scarcity means our impact is faster. You should concede that it leads to extinction, concede the internal link to the descent. That means that you are dead before they can even access their impacts, which should mean a negative valid. Also, interstate rivals take time to develop, which means we out access their hedge impact. Now, their impact defense is illegitimate. They could have said this in the 2AC, but this determined our block strategy. We could have gone for like the pro descent on hegemony, but they did not read this in the 2AC. This incentivized one of your 2AC not making arguments to one of your sandbagging them, which means you should reject this argument. Our Gregor evidence also assumes this evidence. It indicates that the evolution of disease is outpacing our ability to adapt. We checked back their word. Also, their impact defense is wrong. For our Nobel Prize-winning scientist, Letterberger, 92, ozone shield, less autospirally, like to make the transmission less hospitable stems, like excellent very immune defense, provides pressure on the virus, encouraging antigenic variants, evolutionary equilibrium, we show the planet with parasites, we can have to be sure of equilibrium, includes human species, and no perturbations around us, and we can have a lot of equilibrium each other. Take our example, defensive mechanisms do not always work. The virus has always been as benign to serve their advantage. Black death and cholera, swine influenza should be directed nature sorting over our disease, the most possible mechanism, issues in population, examples of species, whether it's RC, and the planet in the world that it could happen. Now, they said hegemony is inevitable, though the internal link for the 1AC that has said that hegemony will collapse. We conceded this argument. They can not go back on this. The 1AC indicated that we cannot use our military power if we do not use force. That's the only way that they access their Kagan evidence, which is entirely about military. This is also not a 2AC argument, which should be rejected across by the analysis of our vote. They said the historical record votes outweighted votes negative or McDonald current evidence indicates that there are more instances in which rejection and multipolarity solved war empirically 15 out of the 17 times. Also, we control the most current examples on this issue. Our evidence indicates things like, for example, like the Iraq and Afghanistan war did not escalate. That did not deter anybody. The overstretching military power did not cause outbreak in wars. Russia invaded Georgia, which is something that Kagan cites, but even though the U.S. had a red line, which proves that our military power cannot actually resolve anything. They said that engagement is inevitable. Their Kitfield evidence that they read on this question assumes that the United States is still the hegemon. Their evidence says that if the United States is a leader, then others will look to it to lead. The internal link clearly would mean that there could be a collapse of agenda, which means that re-engagement is not inevitable. Now, we will not claim that hedge. McDonald and current evidence postdates all of their evidence by nearly 2 years on this question. Our evidence indicates that there's been a trend in the American electorate that they do not want overseas deployments and stuff like that. This has created consensus among both GOP and Democrats to bring home to create a consensus that they do not actually want to claim the hegemony. Only our evidence says statistics on this question that 70% do not want to do this. All their evidence is old and entirely theoretical, which means you should not prefer it. They said we would never be a nuclear war, we would win that there wouldn't be a nuclear war in the first place, so this is functionally irrelevant. They said energy is key to the peaceful transition, but no, our evidence indicates that there wouldn't be a transition war. It appears only one transition war has ever occurred out of the 18 possible that could have. Also, our evidence indicates that retrenchment would withdraw down our military commitments, which decrease war risk. Our evidence also indicates that empirically there have been 50 cases of retrenchment. Those have all worked and has not resulted in multipolar conflict. Our evidence also indicates that multipolar territorial expansion is no longer a theme for great power expansion, which means there's no risk of war in the first place. They are focused on economics, which are self-deterring because of interdependence, which means that disease is the only impact for extinction. They said that hegemony is sustainable. We conceded the internal link. Congratulations. That's only about the status quo. They said that we don't assume smart power. This is not a 2AC argument. You should rejected that. That's also access to their Kagan evidence, which is entirely about military power. Now, hegemony does not solve war. Our evidence indicates that Kagan is empirically flawed on this question. Our evidence indicates that he admits in his own book that it's all hypothetical conjecture. There are no empirical examples for this. This is our problem of evidence, by the way, is that he could entirely be wrong because there is no data to back up his theory. Our evidence also indicates that, for example, the institutions that allow the United States to lead are attractive to other countries independent of what their the United States as a leader, and he overall hyperinflates the threats. The fact that like Georgia conflict did not necessarily prove that other countries are not out to get the United States, which proves that there is no reason we need hegemony in the first place. Now go to the climate convention. I do not think that they can win an impact here because there are a couple of brain arguments that they've conceded. We conceded the empirics argument on the hegemony flow. Now all of our impact events cards are about empirics, while those are about future predictive scenarios that are entirely hypothetical. Our Barnett evidence is the only one that assumes the most current recession, and the fact that that did not lead to war proves all of our arguments. It led to more cooperation because states cannot raise resources; they need to share them in order to foster economic growth, which means they would not go to war. Also, our evidence indicates that the public would not accept this. This is the exact trend in American politics that we want to withdraw from Afghanistan and Iraq because the economy is bad. We do not want to waste resources on external wars, which disproves any type of external travails argument. Our Ferguson evidence indicates that the economic collapse was not the cause of World War II. Our also evidence indicates that there were 90 instances of economic collapse. None actually led to war. None of their evidence assumes the recession, which means you should prefer to go to the warming impact. There is an empirics argument here too. Our evidence indicates that empirically there's been a forced sea rise. That did not cause extinction. Since we've conceded the empirics argument on the hedge, well, that should be enough impact mitigation to prove that that warming does not cause extinction. Now they've conceded two arguments about why negative feedbacks occur, which will resolve warming the status quo. First off, they conceded resource wars defense, which means they don't access a war impact from warming. The evidence indicates that as warming heats up dimethyl sulfide and other aerosols that are underground, those turn into cloud cover as they evaporate. That reflects the radiation, which is sufficient to offset CO2, which is the only argument that was made in the 1 year on this question. Our evidence also indicates that the increase in nitrogen in the soil that would result from warming from these aerosols evaporating would cause less plant stress, which means they absorb methane, which is a bigger cause of warming in the status quo. It also means that it would cause carbon sequestration, which would resolve warming.
You have 3:30.
He firmly believes that this round because we control global impact. This question in negative is not for a piece of evidence that says the U.S. hegemony will be collapsed in South Korea now. He says he'll speak to the internal that it says competitiveness is key to hegemony right now. We are leading in competitiveness. That's our blue green last part, but we are slowly declining. It's all from the 1AC evidence. Is you're not arguments in this goal. There's this fundamental problem with the fact of going for his impact term because he doesn't read any piece of evidence that says, hey, it's unsustainable in status quo. He just says retrenchment after the status quo. But we'll answer that there. That's the only piece of claim. He has no impact to his disease right which means it's not way that maybe even so warming to be able to solve back disease. He can see our chevron 8 evidence about how warming makes every flashpoint conflict inevitable. It says severe climate change can moves fast and non-intermittent migration and cultural patterns. Also, it talks about how any sort of global tension wouldn't happen. This article means that like disease would also be able to solve. Also, we will outweigh on time frames, specifically our econ and our hedge impacts will vastly outweigh his cards from 1992. Think about this. We'll talk about how once the U.S. draws back from the world, wars will collapse or wars will happen immediately. That's our Kagan evidence. Go to the flow debate. He talks about how disease is the biggest impact around. You should accept our hedge impacts. He talks about how we're deterring terrorism, the North Korean equivalent, Iran equivalent, impact all these conflicts are waiting for nuclear escalation and it would heighten these types of impacts which would cause extinction because nuclear weapons will be used in the fire. He talks about how disease which causes the impacts. First of all, as cards are saying, they need to have some like mutation of super diseases. As cards from 1992, there's no time for fair scenario. Our Kagan evidence talks about how the U.S. would have to withdraw or not use its power effectively. This would immediately cause hotspots, which would escalate worldwide change for our time frame. Additionally, you can also extend the worthy limits that have uniqueness. One extent talks about how Japanese level Kagan is talking about in the sense that the U.S. would try to exert its military power and it's also its commitments worldwide. The question is how effective it would be. That is not a reason why we do not read uniqueness. That's not a new argument in the status quo. Additionally, it does make this extension that hedge collapsing right now. You can sound like blue-green rise talking about how competitiveness is up in the status quo, but we're being challenged by places such as China. There's no argument on this, which means there's no uniqueness to this disease and impact for impacts that is going throughout the entire round. Also, go to the transition debate. First, you can extend first of all, he's conceding a few scenarios. First, he says that he concedes our liberal violence about how the U.S. would go back in transition. Where he says no, but the U.S. has security commitments in places like Japan and South Korea, and also all places like that, which means that if those were ever to be attacked, which the card seems to will, the U.S. would have to be drawn in. Additionally, you can extend our killing or 11 card, on historical record. People would look to the United States to do these types of things. Global commitments such as Iraq, Afghanistan, place being severely attacked. The U.S. would be forced to respond. He talks about this Russia-Georgia conflict. First of all, the U.S. did respond to the types of Russia. They didn't automatically nuke Russia because the Georgia thing, but they were a massive part of deterring the types of escalation that he talks about, which means there's probably a reason why Russia didn't do anything about that. Additionally, that wasn't a global conflagration conflict with nuclear weapons. You should look at more larger specific scenarios like Kagan talking about, such as the India-Pakistan war conflict which is going on. Also, places like Israel and the entire Arab region in terms of such as Palestine conflict. Like, these things have not escalated quickly because the United States has been there for security engagement and security alliances. This is what all of our evidence says. Also, he's conceding, or he concedes that the Dolman 6 card talking about how sustaining hedge now is key to a peaceful transition when the hedge collapse. Even if they win the multipolarity arguments, we still need to sustain it. Also, go to the entrenchment debate. His card that he tries to go for talks about the 7 out of 10 policymakers, the Woodford McDonald evidence. First of all, it doesn't assume the fact that they've actually done that. Once again, the United States has reaffirmed its commitments to security alliances such as South Korea. Places also shifted to pivotal aid to Asia. Also, you can send Kagan 11 cards talking about how the United States is still economically, militarily looking to lead in this aspect. Or when you see evidence, you can also send our Kagan 7 evidence talking about how the United States and both presidents have had the idea that American power is the way to be, and that they should be able to control these types of things from behind. And inevitably, hedge will be questioned. Also, you can send our Armitage 9 talking about how it's this type of smart power, even if it's not generally military power. The card that the argument that we're making is that smart power will be connected to the U.S. will still need reaffirming its allies and commitment in other areas besides military, such as economic or diplomatic areas as well. That is a form of type of hegemony. That's a type of smart power, which means we probably avoid all returns, but also assumes that the United States is still a player in this, which means we're promoting hedge. There's no uniqueness to the types of impact turns. Also, you can extend Bentley to talk about how hedge is sustainable. The evidence doesn't only assume to static the United States power. It's constantly evolving. Talks about how it's durable and globalization is only feeding the types of United States power, which means there's no risk of their impact. They have no uniqueness to their argument. Go to warming just all back to these types of diseases and back because in a world where climate change is occurring, which they continue throughout the entire debate. First of all, he tries to use empirics to describe warming. That is not the correct analysis. Obviously, warming hasn't killed us all yet. But for scientific trends, they consider when I see analysis card, the scientific consensus is warming is happening now. It's close to as good as empirics. It uses statistics and modeling data to show what the world will look like in the future. Which is probably in line with the types of empirics arguments that he tries to claim the framing debate, which means that you should prefer a warming event scenario. First of all, his 2 cards he's talking about are not sufficient to overcome the fact that CO2 is regarding 90% of our GHG emissions. That's our second card from the 1AC piece of evidence. The card talks about how it would be able to offset. There's no actually analysis on that. It just says that nitrogen oxides would be released in the atmosphere. There's no modeling that for our models. The IPCC did a study on how the fossil fuels and how scientific consensus is causing that warming is happening now. Also, it says CO2 independently would cause extinction, which means that you should
for all of it is because we have an internal link extinction signal based off the CO2 internal link. There's no way that they'll be able to absorb the type of methane that's happening in the status quo right now. Additionally, go to the economic class debate. First, he talks about how there has been this class since World War II. For our royal analysis, he talks about how statistics show that when there's been a trend in decline, there have been more multiple wars right now. First, also, he's conceding our list of Islam 8/12 evidence. He talks about how the decline is inevitable. Now, our plan promotes 1 million jobs immediately right there out of the status quo, and also says jobs are necessary to get out of this double-dip recession. Otherwise, economic decline will collapse into war. Our royal evidence backs itself with statistical support. Talks about how it analyzes like 50 different types of places. Talks about how major conflict will be involved with that. Also, for our Merlini evidence, talks about how this type of specific conflict would go nuclear because of the lack of interdependency with check. That all these types of arguments. These are all short-term scenarios that outweigh his diseases. He has no use to his impact anyway. But you want to prefer the economic collapse is a much more long-term, short-term impact than their disease impacts. His time frame analysis of White House is from 1992 about how it would evolve. There's no way that 20 years in the future that you should be able to prefer like it would automatically happen now.
I want any card that you think makes a uniqueness argument. And I want your card for the hedges to stay. Just the one AC?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll look at it. Hi, Jared.
Do you want to give the
But
What's up? Are you asking me?
sorry, do you want I have it right here.
Wait, do you have R1AC?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can give it to me.
this also include the 1AC?
Yeah.
card, is this a 1AC card? American Power stops conflict in every region. I think this debate is very odd, because I end up voting AF, and I think that you were like very significantly ahead on many, many portions of this debate. But the one argument that the affirmative is conclusively correct on is the question of uniqueness. Their 1AC does not make the claim that hedge collapse is inevitable, and I read all of their cards like several times, and like the thesis of the 1AC is that hegemony is inevitable. It's just a question of whether or not we have competitiveness to make it work. And it's like the one argument that the affirmative is consistently extending through the whole debate. And you're just like, we conceded the 1AC. The 1AC uniqueness claim is that hedge collapse is inevitable. And it's just not. And I think that that takes out the majority of your offense. I think that there's a risk that the app solves other portions, etc. I think that you all should point out that the terms that he is reading are not responsive to the 1AC. Like, your whole 1AC is designed to answer these types of arguments, and like the whole thesis of smart power is something that is barely examined by you all in this debate. Because like their 1NC link card is like literally just like, when the US is the sole superpower, it means that like countries that have diseases won't trust us, which is not the thesis of the affirmative at all. Like the whole app is about creating sustainable alliances and like not being an asshole and all of this stuff. Like the link to all of these arguments is so infinitesimally small, regardless of this uniqueness question. And these are arguments that you all don't really introduce into this debate, which is problematic. I also honestly don't know why you don't go for elections in the 2NR. Like, perceptually, it might seem like they have more ink on this, and I think that you are sort of correct that they don't really answer this term specifically in the 2AC particularly well, except for this uniqueness argument that does take out this offense. They both concede that the dissent turns the case and that Romney would gut the ass in the 1AR, which is just like terminal offense against their ability to solve, and they don't really have a link argument in the 1NR or in the 1AR that is persuasive. I think that the link is not great in the 1NR because I think that you get there with just like too little time left, but it's definitely extended well enough to answer these arguments. And like this Clinton argument is dumb because you're right. Clinton obviously supports Obama right now. This pot thumper, dumb. The 1NR more than enough covers it. And I have to think that your uniqueness cards, like maybe I could be wrong, but I have to think that your uniqueness cards are better than like the Examiner and the Daily Caller and things that they are reading. And it just seems very problematic to put all of your eggs in this like disease turn when it doesn't really interact with the other advantage at all, and the disad does interact with the advantage. So that's a problem. In the 2AC, you have to make impact defense arguments against the disad. Like you read 5 Romney will win cards and no impact defense. So take away like 1 or 2 of those uniqueness cards and read an impact defense card instead. I also think that you need to make sure that your state's counterplan answers are responsive to the counterplan that they read. Like you read a card that's like states can't do feed-in tariffs, which I guess I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's not what the counterplan does. So problem. I also was a little bit shocked that you all didn't extend the counterplan because I thought that their answers were like mediocre at best. The states definitely solved this out.
So in terms of uniqueness questions for the advantage, as I'm looking through the advantage, it seems like what is the other possible interpretation of like the RF competitiveness is collapsing now, RF is key to competitiveness, and then they read this Armageddon card that's like loss of competitiveness kills smart power, which like the Armageddon is like pretty good, which like that's key to leadership and whatnot, and then like the Kagan evidence.
The card talks talks about how like our military alliances and like our competitiveness won't be low. I don't think that there is an internal link to like our military goes away and like all of our shit goes away.
I guess like that's just like the argument that like I get like their card might not be good, but like we've conceded that. Like I get that like their Armitage and Naive is like probably doesn't like have like a great.
But I don't think that.
But like we conceded the arc that was key to hedge. Like this is like in their tag, it's in their card. Like the world is dissatisfied with American leadership. The nation, to reverse it, the nation has to embrace a smarter strategy. Like it makes a decline argument.
I mean, I'm not saying it takes out like 1,000% of your offense. Like there's still like maybe a risk that this happens, like maybe. But I think it is so incredibly small that it's just not enough. And honestly, I think that you're upset because this is like a truth over tech sort of decision that I have given, and you sort of want me to just pull the trigger on this tech question, except that like, the app consistently is contesting the question of whether or not hegemony is sustainable / inevitable. Your only answer is that the 1AC claims that it is. The app says no. I agree with the affirmative that their card says. All you have to do is read like a uniqueness card in the 2NC or some argument like this. Like I don't understand why.
Yes. Scenario. We read a uniqueness card that's like, for example, like hedge is unsustainable because of, for example, like collapse of manufacturing.
Sure.
They can concede that we have no offense. Like the only way to read hedge bad is to, at least the way we're reading it, not with like transition arguments, is to concede their internal links. And like I guess like
you mean that there's no way that you can straight turn it, is what you're saying.
Right. There's no way to straight turn hedge by saying hedge. If you say hedge is unsustainable, they can just kick the advantage straight up. It's
Sure.
never offense then.
Sure. Well,
Alright, well
it's not that it's not offense, it just means that it is not a straight turn.
okay, but if they concede that hedge is unsustainable, right, and that hedge collapse is inevitable, we can't go for hedge bad, right? There's no uniqueness to the turn that way.
Sure.
Right, so like, I guess like, is there like an alternative interpretation of the 1AC, like as is, like that's like, we're not key to hedge, like as I understand, like they made the arc that we're key to hedge, like, especially in the 2AC, because it was like, the arc in the 2AC that they made when they read this was like,
The way that I have this argument is that hegemony is inevitable. It's a question of effectiveness and whether or not they access like terminal conflict, de-escalation, and things like that. That is my understanding of this argument, that hegemony inevitable is just a question of whether or not it works.
okay, I mean, like I get like the Armitage and Nye evidence isn't great on like the internal link to the Kagan evidence, but the 1AC is just like, okay, competitiveness is key to this type of power, and then American power like stops conflict. I get maybe they don't access their impact and whatnot, but it seems like that is a claim made by the 1AC, especially since it like makes the uniqueness argument like the world is dissatisfied with American leadership now. To reverse it, the nation should embrace a smart strategy. It just like seems like
To me, this is a claim that they make hegemony effective, and that they means that they solve the Kagan card in terms of like terminal impact escalation things. I think in the world of the status quo, it means that the U.S. isn't effective at de-escalating conflict and doing stuff like that. Not that hegemony just goes away.
I mean, like, what do you mean we can't de-escalate conflict now? Like, because we have no power, right? Like, we don't have power. Is that correct? Like, because we are lacking power right now.
Because we like don't have effective alliances with other countries, like whatever the argument in the Armitage
Right,
card
we're like
is.
lacking those things, and those things are key to power, right?
A form
So,
of power,
like,
not
I mean,
all
if-
forms of
If the
power.
internal links to our impact cards are based off of like the material balance of power, I don't get why that isn't a uniqueness argument.
Okay, I'm not sure I think that that is entirely true, to be honest, because the card that you read isn't about the instance of the app. Like, it just like categorically is not, because the warrant in your card assumes total unipolarity, which is not the world of the affirmative, which talks about how like they need to transition to smart power, so we're not doing everything by ourselves, so that we effectively burden share and do things like
I
that.
think that's a separate issue, because I don't think the smart power argument, like, it's different than the app has ever made. I don't think that's an issue in this debate at all. Like, it was never.
No, I agree that it is
So-
not a question in this debate, but the arguments that you are now getting into are arguments that weren't necessarily in this debate, which is why I'm drawing that stuff in. Like, a lot of what's going on right here is not what happens in the debate. Because, like, your answer to their argument that hedge is inevitable is literally to just assert that you have conceded the thesis of the 1AC, that the 1AC claims that hedge collapse is inevitable. There is none of this nuance that you are making right now, which I think is
Well,
problematic.
I guess but the app is only hedge is sustainable. They don't have uniqueness. Hedge is inevitable. We just have to maintain it. I don't think they got into that distinction either. I guess independent of that, I guess if we agree that the United States doesn't have effective power now because we can't build alliances, I guess I don't understand why that's not a uniqueness claim, because the Weber Act is explicit solutions are only possible when we get the upper hand. Poor countries are the best place for they're the same countries that feel threatened by American power. Whatever, as long as the U.S. remains liberal, as long as superpower, we're not likely to get any help. It's about the material balance of power and not, right? So if we've agreed that we don't have power now because we don't have smart power, we aren't creating effective alliances, and that is their internal link to the Kagan evidence, I don't understand why conceding that isn't uniqueness.
I just don't agree.
All right.
I'm sorry.